Good evening, everybody. I got the short straw, so we're going to start the meeting, the regular meeting. Notice is hereby given a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the District to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas, on the 8th day of November, or the hour 5:30 p.m., which it is now, for the consideration of the business of the agenda below. The notice is posted at the office of the district on November 2nd, 2017 at 3 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of said meeting. I call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. Please make note that we are lacking Scott Friedman and Rick Wells. In attendance is Alex Avalos, Herb Houston, and myself, Doyle Wells. The meeting has been duly posted as required by law. I'd like for everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please, followed by the invocation.
Yes.
Pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessings you give us and for bringing us together to do the work that is asked of us. Give us the wisdom and judgment to do what is right for all concerned. For it is in your Son's name, Jesus, we ask. Amen.
Amen.
Agenda item number 3, invitation to the audience for public comments. Any public comments from the audience, staff, board members, interested parties? None received. We're moving on.
I have just one comment. I am very, even though we did not get our bond, I am very pleased with the amount of people that voted for it. I think it actually was pretty good. It was a pretty good show. I mean, it shows there's interest out there. So maybe we could have done a better job, or whatever the case may be. But I am proud of all the people that did support it.
Thank you. Any other comments? None heard. Moving on. Without objection, I'm going to move to item number 9 so that we can take and give consideration to the city officials. Is there any objection to me moving to number 9?
Not at all.
Number 9, consider and discuss and enter into an interlocal agreement with the cities of Port Isabel and Laguna Vista for billing their garbage service fees. I asked Mr. Galvan to place this on the agenda at the request that I had received from the city of Port Isabel, and I had heard the same of Laguna Vista. In the interest of hearing what can be provided to the district, to be blunt, I'd like to just hear their sales pitch and then take in consideration, and it'll be a discussion and consideration by the board. I know the district has encountered this in the past, but at the same time, I would like to get the feedback from the other cities.
Yes.
Jared is supposed to be here. Last week in our monthly meeting, we talked about this question.
Okay, just go ahead and start up here. We're trying to be quick. Port Isabel's got a 6 o'clock annexation meeting, so they're trying to fit it in, but out of courtesy, we're going to go ahead and start.
I am Rolando Vela. I serve as the city manager of the town of Laguna Vista. Thank you for putting this item on the agenda. This is something that we've been trying to work on for the past few years. Currently, what we have is a system where Republic Services bills customers on a quarterly basis. The problem is that there is no checks and balances. There is no way for the city to ensure, besides taking people to a municipal court for violation of the ordinance, there's nothing in place aside from that to ensure that every single resident that has active water service pay for garbage service fees. It's pretty much standard. It's pretty much standard in most municipalities. Yes, it's pretty much standard in most municipalities that provide water, sewer services and garbage collection services to include all these fees in one bill. And so what we want to do is simply, we understand that we're not in the business of providing water and sewer, but Jared and I share in the concern that the situation we have right now, and that we want to be part, we want to include that fee in your utility bill to ensure that every single person with active water service pays that fee. And we're willing to, something I shared with Carlos, include an administrative fee as part of the billing. Right now, to give you an example, as I mentioned, Laguna Vista Republic Services sends out a quarterly bill. It charges $1.50. It adds $1.50 to that quarterly bill, essentially 50 cents a month more to do that. I would say
To do what, Rolando?
for that service to bill the
Okay,
customers.
To bill directly.
Okay.
Directly.
Yeah.
And we have a percentage of people in the community that don't pay. Some of our residents only come to Laguna Vista 1 weekend a month, and they'll say, I don't use the garbage. It doesn't matter. It's no different than water. You're paying for the availability of water. Whether you turn on the faucet or not, you're still paying for that service. So we simply want to make the whole process more efficient and to ensure accountability, and we're hoping that you will work with us. I know Jared has some comments as well. Sure. Thank you, Rolando.
Just for the record, please make note that Mr. Hakima attended.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Thank you. So I'll just kind of jump in on what Rolando said. There's a lot of reasons why we want to do this. One of them is, of course, the ease of collections, or more efficient, better collections. I think another important point is the ease and convenience for our customers. When I look at what we do here at the city, what y'all do with the water district, I'm sure what they do in Laguna Vista is first thing we think whenever we do anything is, how is this going to be better for our customers? How is this better for the taxpayers, the citizens? How is it easier and more convenient for them? As Rolando said, in most cities, almost every city, you get one bill. You go one place to pay that bill. It's like I've told some of y'all, it's like when we used to have the elections. We used to have to go to 4 places to vote. Now we've gotten it down to where we go to 1 or 2 places to vote, and it's a lot easier on the voters than it used to be to make that track all around town. And it's the same concept here. It's one stop for payment, but then when you get to the efficiency side of it, it's one stamp that's being made, it's one bill that's being printed, it's one check that's being written. And so it makes it a lot cleaner, a lot cheaper for everyone. And those are savings that can flow back to the water district. So money that we're paying to the post office, that we're paying on envelopes, that instead could be going to y'all to help fund your administrative staff or other priorities that you have. But the other side of that efficiency is that, or that one-stop shop approach, if you will, is that when a customer comes to open an account, we automatically know they need to get a garbage account. When they close their water account, we know they need to close their garbage account. One of the problems we have right now is we have folks that get water service, they never get garbage, like Rolando alluded to. Or on the other side of the coin, they close their water account, they move out of town, they never discontinue their garbage service. So we find out a couple months later, hey, they moved out of town, and then of course the taxpayers have taken a loss on that. So there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained by the local entities in doing this. It's easier for the customers, but to me, the benefit to y'all is that you're going to get a little bit extra money. When you talk about what are the benefits, I think there are maybe some downsides, and I'll just address them now. Of course, if you have our garbage bill on your statement, people are going to say, hey, why did you raise my garbage? Why am I paying, $23.75 or whatever Rolando's charge is? Why is it on my bill? They'll say that, and I'm sure you're concerned with that. To me, what I would do is write on the bill, City of Port Isabel Garbage Service, Town of Laguna Vista Garbage Service. So it's very clear that the policymakers who set that bill is not y'all, it's our commissioners or our aldermen that set that. When you get into collections, that's another issue. At least on the part of Port Isabel, and I can't speak for Laguna Vista, but we would not expect y'all to disconnect anyone's water service if they didn't pay their garbage, number one. We wouldn't hold you liable for any amounts that weren't collected by y'all. And we wouldn't require you to do collections for us. If people didn't pay their garbage bill for whatever reason, maybe they didn't pay both the water and the garbage, or maybe they just paid the water, y'all turn that over to us, and then our staff would then do the collections. We have our own collection mechanism for garbage. We have a city ordinance that requires, and I'm sure they have the same thing in Laguna Vista, that requires customers to subscribe to the garbage service if they have an occupied residence. And so if people don't have garbage service, or they don't pay, we take away their can. And then we give a little period of time, and if they still don't pay, we go out there, we knock on their door with code enforcement and say, hey, we've got this ordinance. If you don't subscribe to the garbage service, eventually you're going to be cited, you're going to be taken into municipal court, and you're going to be fined. And so that is the mechanism, the enforcement mechanism we have to make people subscribe and pay for the garbage service. So I think there's ways that we can address some of the potential concerns that would come up to this board about handling that, and then get back to focusing on what are the benefits to the customers, to the taxpayers, and to the entities.
And I think what happens also is that the people at times don't appreciate what they really have. Service in La Buena Vista for a year is $232 a year. That's $19.90 a month. If you live in the county, you're paying over $30 a month for one-time pickup. Inside the community city limits, La Buena Vista is twice a week, once a month rush. And I think sometimes people don't appreciate that. And I think what happens, it's like anything. If you include this in the bill, initially there's going to be some comments made. Why is this being included? After the second, third month, it's already standard. People just start writing the check for the whole amount.
And I'll add, like in the case of Laguna Vista, for people that are from Laguna Vista, right now, you know, they're because of the cost of billing through Allied Waste, they're having to pay those 3 months up front, so it's a heavier burden on them. If they were able to go for the water bill, they would pay a third of that, so it's cheaper, not cheaper, but it's a smaller price that the customers pay, especially people that are on fixed income, or other people, smaller price they pay each month. Of course, in Port Isabel, we bill once a month, but in your case, you might be able to bill a monthly billing.
We'd like to do that. And I think Republic Services supports that also. I chatted with John Dickler.
Rolando, let me ask you, right now, Laguna Vista is, the services are billed by Republic?
Correct.
So they do the billing for you?
Correct.
And then that's on a quarterly basis, and then they charge $1.50 for that service, for a quarterly billing?
Basis. Correct.
Port Isabel is
We bill monthly.
monthly.
And we charge, I think our base rate is $23.75. Then of course you have extra cans, things like that, it's more. And that's the other point that I would make, and I meant to say this before. You know, one of the big differences between the way what y'all bill for water and sewer and what we bill for utilities is that our services are the same price every month. So it's not, the administrative burden is a lot less because it's set up for most customers once a year. You know, I mean, the rate changes once a year when Allied Waste goes up, so if they're a garbage customer and they're already existing, they're paying $23.75 each month. The only time it would change is if, of course, they discontinue service, or they come in and say, I want to add a can, take away a can, something like that, but that's a pretty small number. So the administrative burden of having to make changes, enter things every month, should be fairly low once the customers are set up on the system to receive that recurring payment.
In Port Isabel, what is the customer actually paying to Republic, and what is the city adding for this fee? He's at $19.90.
We charge 10% more.
You charge 10% above $19.90. Is the base?
No,
is
our
it
price
base?
is not 19. Ours is higher than $19.90. It's in the $20 something.
I think it's 24 and change.
Well, what we charge the customer is $23.75.
Right.
That's our current, but it's what Allied Waste is charging us is, I have to back the 10% out. It's like 22 something or other, or maybe 21. We're charging at 10% for our administrative costs, but also for uncollectible accounts. Because if we used to charge exactly what Allied Waste charged us. But the problem with that is when you have people that don't pay the bills, you write them off, and that's just going to the taxpayer. So we try to add that onto the bill to have a little buffer for uncollectible accounts.
I heard that when you first started out, you're saying that most municipalities pay all their services on one bill.
Correct.
Anyway, but that's when the municipality, PUB, for example, or the city of Harlingen, and even the city of Laguna Vista, I mean, Los Fresnos, they have their own water and sewer plant, to where here it's a different animal, that Laguna Madre Water District is a separate entity than
It
the
is, but
municipality. So that's why they can get away with having a combined bill, because it's the same
It's a separate entity, but it's under the same umbrella.
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Wells,
Yeah.
like you used the example of Brownsville and Los Fresnos. In Los Fresnos' case, they do have a city utility, but they also have areas in the city limits that are for East Rio Hondo and Omito Water Supply. Brownsville has Omito, El Jardín, you know, other water supply corporations in their city limits where they're providing garbage service, but the water service provider is someone else. And in both of those cases, they have agreements with the water supply corporations to handle the garbage bills.
So they do have that.
They do.
So there's,
Yeah.
and
I don't have a
big issue with it. I mean, I open up my electric bill, and here's electric charge, but there's AEP, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy. And like you said, you sort of get used to it. But I've had people that I know out at the golf course who were there just a few months. I mean, they've told me in the past, well, I don't generate that much, so I take my trash to my neighbor. He said it was all right. But when they clip the clippings, you know, the yard and whatnot, they still put it out on the street, and they expect Republic to pick it up, even though they're not paying anything. So I think this just sort of makes everybody, I want to be fair to everybody. I think everybody needs to pay the same, be treated the same. You know, nobody is above being treated the same. And I would like staff to maybe come back and give us some ideas on how it can work, or if it can work, if it can't work. But you know, just to explore the possibilities.
I've got a couple of comments, and we shared a little bit of information earlier or this weekend, but I do have some concerns, and the main concern I have is how it could possibly affect our collection rate that we have, because I definitely don't want to see us in a negative collection rate. I don't want to see it drop from where we're at, number one. The other thing is, I think that before we do this, we really need to consider, because I know for a fact that you guys have separate billing. I mean, it's different pricing. And I think it warrants going to Republic and saying, we would like the same price. There's no reason why you should not have the same price. That's the other thing. And if it's only going to cost a few dollars more for Republic to handle this, they have complete authority to do all the other stuff other than the billing. They have complete authority to shut down service, to do all those things, and we won't. And that's a little bit concerning to me, because all I'm doing is billing, but I'm going to get the calls. And maybe that'll work itself out, like you were saying, over time.
You being the district.
The district, yes. The district is going to get the phone calls about garbage. And if somebody looks at their bill and say, well, I'll pay that, but I'm not going to pay that, you know, I'm not sure how that's going to work, because I have no authority to go after that money.
Why would you give the customer the option to even do? You can't go to your electric bill and say, look, I'll pay GEXA, but I don't want to pay AEP.
No. I get. My point is that I can't control that. They can choose to pay just the water, not just by choice.
And I think you're correct about that. And from my perspective, that's why I said when I first spoke, is that, you know, at least we wouldn't expect the limited amount of water to be a collection agency for us. If someone comes in here and they don't choose, say, you know what, I am not going to pay this city garbage, y'all don't have to collect it.
Well, and that's it, and this is why I bring this up, because if you don't think it's going to be an issue, then I don't understand why you wouldn't be concerned about that collection. You know, because I would if it was my money.
Because I think that we will collect more money through y'all than we will on our own. You know, I think
what's the basis for that?
Because people are more likely to pay their water bill.
Right, their water bill. Yeah, and that's what I'm concerned about. That we have a line item now. We're going to add these line items, and I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to happen. I'm just thinking worst case scenario.
We don't have a lot, but part of the reason why I mentioned it is, you know, there's this issue of billing and through the monitor has come up for other entities.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned to you back years ago when Cameron County did the street lighting with Laguna Heights. They had initially come to the water district. I don't think anybody from that time is still here, but and they said, well, we want you to bill. And one of the issues was, well, we can't. This is not just Laguna Madre; it's all the water supplies around the county. We can't cut off someone's water if they don't pay. The same thing had come up with the garbage when the county did the rural garbage collection. The same thing came up, and all the water districts said, look, we're not going to cut off someone's water if they don't pay the garbage. From our perspective, that's fine, because whether y'all send out the bill, you know, or not, we're just trying to have a more efficient mechanism to If they don't pay y'all for the water, we still have our way of going out.
Right.
We don't need Jolly Water. Now, I think the fact that it's on the water bill it's one bill rather than two, you're gonna get more people paying. The fact that people say, hey, I need to pay my water bill, they come pay it, I think we'll get more people paying. And so that'll enable us as a city to focus on the people
That are not paying.
really aren't paying.
Yeah.
You know, we used to have a big problem here, I can't speak for the village, we had a big problem in Fortisville of people not paying their bills for years and years. We had people who had service that were never getting billed, and we had people who were living in houses like they talked about, y'all had, without garbage service. So we did an audit, we went through all the accounts, determined, you know, who's paying, who's not paying, who has service, who doesn't have service, and code enforcement, and it took a couple months, but we went through each house, we made them sign up for garbage service.
Yeah.
They weren't paying, we made them start paying. We took it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that needs, if and when this happens, needs to be cleared out, that you do have an enforcement policy and that you're actually enforcing it, because it makes life easier for everybody. Now, in all fairness, yes, now, in all fairness, I will say that in my discussions with Republic, with some of the people I know there, we are the only entity that doesn't do this, okay? We're the only entity that doesn't bill all of it
Talk about
together.
the water district.
Yes, everybody up Valley does it, and that's good and well. But
But
as you
ask.
mentioned, they're different setups. They're set up differently, and that's fine. I totally get the efficiency part of it. I'm just concerned, and this is going to involve some legal discussions because I don't want to just assume that I'm not responsible for this. You know, if I'm putting it on my bill, I'm thinking I'm responsible to an extent, and that has to be worked out. Because I am concerned about some of those things like elections, but more importantly is I'm building something I have no authority over, and that's a little bit.
I mean, we talked earlier about
Yeah.
But
regulations.
Alex, you know, you don't.
Not that I want it, okay?
Yeah, I know, but when I
Yeah.
get my electric bill, they don't have any authority over AEP. It's just a pass-through that they have
Yeah,
to
but
attach to their bill.
We're getting
Yeah.
into that.
And- Yeah, but let me finish. One thing to remember, the people who are going to complain are the ones that probably aren't signed up for service. Someone that's already paying the trash, paying the water, I think will like just paying one bill a month, or one, something like that. The ease of just one less piece of paper that they have to deal with.
I mean, I look at the big picture. I mean, the vast majority of people will not have a problem with this. If the intent is to satisfy every person, that's never going to happen.
Right.
Now, there are agreements in place. This is not something new. There are agreements in place that stipulate that you have to pay the whole bill. I don't think you want to create a precedent where somebody's coming over and saying, well, I heard Joe Blow simply came over and said that they're not going to pay their garbage, so I'm going to do the same. I think that everybody needs to be holding hands. Everybody needs to be
Right.
united. At a time in society right now where there's conflict among entities, this is an excellent opportunity for the water district with the cities come together, because staffs work very well together. And this is an excellent opportunity for all of us to say, we support our neighborly cities, because after all, we're on the same boat. That's why I said earlier, it's the same umbrella.
Yeah, my understanding also is that the standard procedure is to, when these bills you got several of them, several bills on there, the standard procedure in the industry is to shut off the water.
I think they should,
Well,
to be honest with you.
it is.
Personally, I think they should.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the Boonies too. From my perspective, we're not asking them to cut off this water bill. Now, if they haven't paid their water bill,
That's it.
cut them off, right?
Yeah. Well,
But-
and I
but,
think
you know,
that,
I think if you have, we're probably talking about a very small number of people.
Yeah.
To be honest, right? If you have somebody that, for whatever reason, I refuse to pay this bill, from my perspective, I'm not expecting the water district to go into that fight. The city can handle that issue of whether they should have to pay the garbage or not. We're not expecting y'all to go into that. I think the majority of people you're gonna have are either gonna pay all their bill, or they're not gonna pay all the bill. And if that's the case, then they'll owe you water, and you have grounds to shut them off. But if they just don't pay the garbage, then I think that's something that, at least from the matter for this, I can't speak for Louis.
Right.
We'll handle that. We're not gonna expect y'all to fight that for us.
Yeah.
We have our mechanism to do it, and we'll do it. And I think, I haven't looked at the statute lately, but I think that y'all may not be able to cut it off for just garbage. For water, sure. And so, I wouldn't expect that from you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that is either, so that's something that needs to be.
From my
cleared up.
perspective, and I know you're on a real timeline, so
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
kind of rush this up here. From my perspective is I'm open but skeptic. And I hear that we run and work with the community and the different entities work together and everything, but for me, this sits here, it has to be a business sense agreement. I need to know what it's going to take and benefit the district and what it's going to cost the district. I can hear you when you say that, you know, one bill, they pay one bill, et cetera, but I promise you, they're going to come in and pay the water bill, so I'm going to go pay the city their portion. They will try everything. Let's just accept it. They're going to try everything they can. I can't have this taken and complicating or being a burden on staff without compensation. This has to be done to where it makes a business sense decision that more than just not compensates them for time, but it's got to be worth our time to fool with it because of all the extra things that are going to come in and be a burden associated with it. So maybe my thought is, if we want to continue the dialogue, which I'm open to, is to go ahead and have staff sit down. Your people get with our people, and let's see where the business is. I don't know how many accounts you have. I don't know how many accounts you have. I don't know where it comes in. We know the part on our side where it's going to cost for staff, and we haven't even talked about. We're going through an audit right now. How are these funds going to be handled? How are these funds going to be taken and reimbursed to the cities? How are we liable and we have to account for them through our audit? There's a lot of this. It's not as simple as we'd like for it to be. So I'm open to go ahead and exploring those, and let's ferret out all the good and the bad and the ugly and see if it could be worked out or not.
Yes, sir. And we certainly are willing to pay y'all. We always contemplate it to be paid. And my perspective is, why are we paying this to the post office envelope company? We can give that money to y'all. As far as the monies, yes, there will have to be accounting for them. That has to be a matter of the agreement, but also how you handle it in your city. But I'll tell you, most cities, you know, their garbage service is the general fund, their water service usually is an enterprise, so that's something that's handled day in, day out anyway. You talk about water supply corporations that collect, they do that anyway, where they have different fees that they're collecting on the water bill. So it's something that's been handled a lot of times before in a lot of places, and it's not a really new ground for us to, maybe new ground for these entities, but not new ground here for governments here in South Texas.
Well, we're at a discussion item right now. This is a great opportunity, so for your timeline, I'd just suggest that we go ahead and agree that, you know, we move forward, go ahead and get with our staff, bring to them something, you know, through Mr. Galvan, go ahead and coordinate with him. And, you know, we need to work with our Director of Operations, our finance, and everybody that's involved, how this is going to work. And then we really got to get with legal. But right now, we're talking too much of a generality for me even to start individually to address this.
Yeah, I totally understand that, sir. To me, this is a preliminary discussion. I think that we can talk about it just to see, are y'all willing to entertain this?
I support discussion. So I invite it and would like for y'all to go ahead and, you know, get your people to get with our people.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much. We look forward to it, and we'll be in touch with y'all.
And we hope to see you on the Saturday 11th at 11 o'clock, Veterans Day ceremony, 11 Vista. We're going to unveil the aircraft carrier memorial.
Cool.
We're expecting a lot of people. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much for
All right, 10.
Yeah, 10, 11.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Oh, man, I'm still in the driver's seat, sorry.
Minutes.
Okay, so now we're going to number 4. Daisy, you're going to have to keep me straight. Thank you. Item number 4, consider approved minutes of regular meeting on October 25th, 2017.
I just had one.
Have an opportunity to look at these?
Yeah, and I just had just one correction on the wording for the agreement we have with
What
Ray.
item number?
Oh.
The 11.
Yes. Item number 11, page 4 of 8.
Right. Yeah, we determined to make the only thing that's missing here is the December 31st, after December 31st, we agreed to review this again.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but as I recall,
Because I think you're the one that made the motion.
we approved that. They was discussed 3 months or whatever, or 3
90
months.
days? I think it was 90 days.
90 days, and I said December 31st, and everybody agreed that was a good time. It was y'all's motion. So
Right.
either way, we're missing the 90-day period from this approval or the termination date of this price at
The
December 31
only reason I
this
mentioned
year.
90 days was that I thought that would give him ample time to finish all the paperwork.
Can we just ask Carlos to go back and review the
Sure.
tape on that?
Well, that's
and
too much,
correct?
that's too much effort. Why don't we just put a date in here and move to approve?
I don't know.
Well, the motion was for the 90 days. So I'm good with 90 days. or-
90 days from October the 25th, November, December,
We-
January.
last meeting.
This is your recall, this is my recall, but we're correcting the minutes from them without an agenda item, so, we want to correct it properly. The point that you're making is that time limitation is not in this
Correct.
minutes. And we want the correct time
The correct time
limitation.
frame that we initially talked about. Do we have that?
The 3 months and the end of the year are not the same.
Right.
Right, so, because.
We were pretty close.
Well,
About a
like a
month
month off.
A month off.
Right.
No, it's October, November, and December.
I know, but the meeting was October the 25th.
25th. Yeah, towards the end of the month,
Yeah.
so we're,
So we're about a little over.
And I remember the gentleman saying there he was fine with December 31, and I have no objection either way.
yeah, if that's what y'all want, December 31st, we can go
The
with that.
correction,
The-
we're asking for the correction to be to put in the time limit that was agreed to in the motion, or the motion at that time.
Do you still have that date?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll go back, but I believe that if I recall correctly, it was December 31st.
Okay.
But
And I'm good with that because he was good with it, so,
That's fine.
yeah.
Okay, so that's all we're saying, that there was a missing here. I have on number 7, item number 7, page 2 of 8, where we were talking about the ground maintenance contract, and I have down there where it's underlined amendment to existing contract agreement, and it says contract shall seek adjacent property owner permission. As I recall, it was contractor. The contract won't, but the contractor was
There you
to
go. Yes,
do
yes.
that, so we
That's
just
correct.
missed an OR.
Okay. And also, I'd like to mention on the administrative staff, we made a correction on that one also, where the Director of Finance, and it has Robert Gomez's name, so we corrected that one already. It should say Director of Operations.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay.
Any other corrections or additions?
As made, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. Bear with me, folks, new territory for me.
Number 5.
Number 5, General Manager report, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wells and members of the board, normally on the 22nd, we do cancel the meeting, but we can still have it for the reason that Thursday, the 23rd is Thanksgiving. It's not going to interfere with anything at this time. So when looking into this, I believe we can still have a meeting. All is okay with that. But normally the board requests.
Yeah.
the time.
In the time I'm here, the board has chimed in here and
I'm going to be out of
worked
town.
with Carlos.
Maybe in between the 16th, I won't be back till the 27th or 28th.
I'll be out of town on the 22nd.
22nd.
Okay, so,
That's the reason we canceled it.
okay, so,
So,
and in the past, what we do, if we cancel something like that, we'll leave it up to staff. If there's something really urgent or something like that, we'll post it before or after.
We can do it for the 29th, if something comes up.
Or cancel the second meeting of the month. If we leave it up to staff, if the staff can carry on, then we won't have.
If we do it on the 29th, the packet is due on the 24th, and that is closed.
Right,
So
right.
Okay, so,
I think we can move forward. If there's anything special that comes up and we need you guys, we'll call you and have a special meeting.
individually, I'm comfortable with not having a second meeting in November.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not gonna have it, so.
You're not going to have it without me.
That one taken care of. The other item that I have is, we are trying to look forward to have a workshop for the job descriptions that we have from the managers and administrative staff with the board here the 16th or 17th.
He's gone the 16th.
I'm leaving the
Gone on
16th, yeah.
Okay, so we,
Yeah, maybe we can push that to December because
Yeah, we can work
I
on
think
that.
that the board members need to finish reviewing all that, because there's a lot of information there.
okay, what we did is, right now, as we're speaking, we're updating the managers, and then we're going to the administrative staff, and then we'll send it to you guys. So we were
Okay.
hoping that by that week, we could send it out, but we can still send you out the new job descriptions that we have, and then add y'all's questions,
Okay.
comments that you have on each one, and then we can have in December like a.
But we can't do that individually. If we're going to do that, it's got to be a board decision if we're going to take and make a request to amending to the job description. So I'm happy to have it whenever you feel comfortable it's ready, but then like
I'll send an email to you guys.
and I agree with Alex, and then maybe we can do the workshop another time, or we can do a little time before the first regular meeting in December.
I'll send you, shoot you an email, like say,
With
first or second week of.
with the new
December.
revisions you have,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, so take this time just to go ahead and make all the changes that you think are beneficial.
Thank you. That's all on
Any
my
other,
part.
that's your report? District Engineer, number 6, District Engineer report, please.
Yeah, the first step is just the capital project status. And it's a spreadsheet I started, a few years back. And it's just kind of sort of my way to be tracking how we're spending our capital projects. And so, it's just kind of a summary where every fiscal year I'll sort of bump everything over to previous columns. But the first group here is just the 2012 tax bond proposition one, where, in prior fiscal years, we spent $17.7 million.
Are you referring to Proposition 1
Yeah, well, Proposition 1 from the Series 2012, because we
in the Series 31, Series 2012?
yeah, like 31 and 36.
I'm
those
just
are
making sure
Proposition 1.
we're on the sheet.
Yeah, we're on that sheet, correct. And so, I mean, I don't know if I need to go back, but of course, the 2012, when we released the original 21.1 million, what we did is we didn't release the contingency funds that was authorized in that proposition. And so that's why we did a second release for the Series 2016 for that 2.59 million. That was the contingency fund that was all part of that original Proposition 1. So that's why it's in two separate bond issues. And so, just to wrap up what we ended up doing last year, for 2012, we paid 796,000 invoices, where it was 463,000 in water distribution and 330,000 towards the Portsmouth sewer plant. And then for the 2016 bond for last year, we ended up spending 1.2 million to finish the outfall extension, and we paid out 376,000 for the Beach Boulevard water line. And so basically, in total Proposition 1 expenses last year, we're looking at 2.1 million. And as far as the purchase orders that carry over into this fiscal year, I have that in that committed column. And so, that for the wastewater effluent reuse, that 2.5 million is just the CSA construction contract for the sewer plant. That's be funded with that account. And then in that same CSA contract, we still have about 801,000 where it's being paid through Series 2016. And then on Beach Boulevard, we haven't paid out retainage for the contractor, so that's that 34,675. And so that's basically what was committed. And as far as maybe I'm jumping back around this budget fiscal year for 2017-2018, what I did is I just pulled the numbers on the approved budget back in August. And so there's just some budget changes we need to make to sort of have some things match up. But that's kind of where those differences are showing up right now. But I'll probably have to come in at the next at the December meeting to do a budget amendment to get these negative balances out here and get things to balance out a little bit. But that's basically where things are sitting.
Well, thank you. We're going to have to make some hard decisions where we are in the district. With the bond not passing, we're going to have to see what's available to do what is the most critical thing that's got to be done in line with the bond that we have.
Correct.
I don't see 1.5 million or a sludge holding tank in there.
Right, and
And
sort
so
of,
we're going to have to make some tough decisions. So this is good. This is good for me to have, but at the same time, we're going to have a separate item and focus time to really see where we're going to go from here forward, in my opinion.
And
I agree.
and on that part, in talking to Mr. Avalos, we can decide on a workshop for that one, for capital improvements, you know, and really prioritize.
We're going to
and,
need some
work on-
input from finance, because I think there's some concerns already about reaching our debt capacity. So we need to figure out what that is, and prioritize it with that, because I think we're going to be limited in how much we can actually borrow.
It's just not capital improvements, but just our repair and maintenance and
Yeah.
our trucks falling apart, our vacuum trucks not working.
Well, and there's, we need to figure out what are our options.
Well, we're getting beyond what we can discuss here, but essentially, we're going to have to make a decision and prioritize what we can do with what we have and keep in line with what we have available as a line item or a fund item that those funds can be used for.
right, and then the other part is to look at, our general, our fund balance from prior years, if you want to consider assigning that to projects. And that's just something that's.
Then we need to have a discussion and action item beyond your report
Correct.
for that. So
Yes.
I would make the recommendation that we put that on our next meeting, and then we tackle the bull by the horns.
There you go.
So I don't know, maybe if there's any other questions, we can continue with this, or
Yes.
I know what you stand. I just, basically on the water SDC, there's no projects assigned to that fund, but we did reserve that 280,000 for additional water rights. So I need to pick up the phone and start negotiating, with some districts that are willing to sell. So I think we want
Is that fund, Alec, is that fund dedicated to that expenditure? Or can that line item be amended to, to another use?
It can be amended. That was just how we assigned it on our budget, for the fiscal.
There's a number of things that we were planning on doing, we thought we'd have the money for, but now those funds have to be used for other things that are going to be more pressing. So that's what I'm suggesting in our next meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And so, with sewer SDC, there's really, we got $2,800 in there that's not assigned to PO, so, we don't have much to work with there. For water infrastructure, we have, 260,000 in, that's not assigned in purchase orders. And with sewer infrastructure, we actually have about 658,000 not assigned in purchase orders. So there's some numbers that we can work with to see what we can assign, what projects we can assign. Yeah, that kind of sums up the report in a nutshell.
I think that we're making great strides already to be more efficient and streamlined financially. I see Hoel riding by himself, and so I think everybody's doing their share, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then I guess my next item was just, the obvious as far as the election results, where we had 873 votes counted on the unofficial results that were posted last night. 371 for, 497 against. And, really, as far as moving forward, there's probably two projects in particular we need to really take as high priority, being the sludge holding tank, UTI, and the sludge drying basins in Portland too. So that's kind of the ones I think we need to look at first, and then figure out where to go with the rest.
That's you.
Yeah.
I'd like to get everybody into the table to sit down and to discuss, because we're going to have to reevaluate everything.
Yeah, that concludes the report.
Thank you.
Let me make one comment about the election.
Can we under that,
Sure. Yeah, he's
under
talking about it.
report of,
I'm just commenting.
Yeah.
I'm not asking a question. I'm not surprised at the results. At the very beginning, when I got on this board, I said, we have to tell the folks what's it going to cost and what's it going to save them, and we failed to do that. People can't read all the gobbledygook on the description of what you're going to do, but they can read numbers. And we failed to point out to the people the cost savings, with the exception of the electric savings when it came to the blowers. If we had gone through line by line, cost savings, cost savings, cost savings, I think it would have done a lot. And my only other observation is we did not address odor control.
Yep, I meant to say that, and I'm glad you're bringing it up. Because
So-
odor control would change public perception in many ways. Much more paperwork.
And the fact that we sort of dismissed it didn't set well. So those are my observations on the bond election.
Any other observations? I second Mr. Avalos' support or appreciation of the folks that did get out and vote, and we'll just pick up and move onward. Thank you. Number 7, Director of Operations report.
Yes, sir. I'm bringing this up to the board as far as the effluent water that's going into the South Padre Island Lake, only because it's come up before the board. There was a discussion on that at the last meeting. And so what's happening now is that the sewage on lift station 4 and the one on lift station 3 as well is being directed to the Luna Vista wastewater plant. And it's going through there, and it's going through the aeration and then the clarifiers and chlorination, and then the effluent water then goes through the process, and it's being directed to the lakes. At times, the pump there does shut off when the water goes down, so they have to bring it back up. So unfortunately, the lake is not going up as fast as they would like it, but it is going up, and it is being maintained at this point.
So you're redirecting, or you're directing more product through the wastewater treatment plant. As a result, you're getting more effluent byproduct.
That's correct.
And
Yes, sir.
I did notice in your report, which is very good, thank you, is that the effluent water was compared to the water in the lake, and the South Padre Island Golf Course personnel noted that the effluent was cleaner than the water that they currently have in the lake.
That's correct.
And you tested it, and it was a higher quality than was in the lake, so everything is good.
Yes, sir.
And
At
so
this
you're
point.
providing a cleaner and better product, and the golf course folks are happy with that.
My understanding is that they're satisfied with what they're getting at this point.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any comments or questions? Number 8, consider and discuss the taste and odor control on potable water. Mr. Galvan, you put this on the agenda.
Yes, I wanted to advise the board because it was requested by Mr. Avalos to talk about it. And I understand that working as a water plant operator, we normally treat the reservoirs with potassium permanganate to control the odor. It actually works on the algae itself. It kills the algae, and it keeps it down from growing. And algae is the one that causes a lot of taste and odor in our water. And again, it's potassium permanganate is an oxidizer, where it's like chlorine. When you add it, it kills, and it kind of gives it a better tasting, better smell. Noe, anything else that you would like to add on that as a treatment for the water treatment plant?
Just to let you know, we treat it once a week. What it does is it also, on top of what Mr. Alon said, it creates a film on top of the water, and it blocks the sun from getting in, which doesn't let the algae bloom. I know we do struggle possibly in the summer times when it's obviously real hot, but we do treat it, and what I'm looking at right now is getting information on aerators to try to aerate a lot of it, right? Looking into what it would take to install it in our entire reservoir. Right now I'm looking at 5 aerators that cover maybe about 2 acres of land, which would take care of the whole area, and that's where we're at right now.
So you're thinking about using air pumps to do that, or are you talking about using the sprinkler?
I mean, yeah, you could compare it to a fountain. What it does, it depends on the type of aerator. And there's some that actually you can point towards the bottom of the reservoir and it'll inject oxygen, kind of stir everything up. It'll help with preventing algae growth. And you also have those aerators which allows the water to come out and get oxygen but delay it from growing. It's just options that I'm looking at right now to try to help out with that.
So really, the taste part of it and odor would be starting at the reservoir.
Well, it's gonna start at the river. You know, just the quality of water that we get from the river. But we can try to control it as much as we can. It's not gonna be. We don't actually inject any chemical that's gonna, take care of that. But we can try to reduce it as much as we can.
Oil?
Just to add to that, I live in Fresno and we have the same problem over there. I had to put a filtering system at the house so we could eliminate the taste and odor. So it's very common throughout the valley that all utilities will have the same problem at the same time.
It's been noted here amongst the board that that's something that we can do, the district can do a better job of, is actually selling our product, improve the process with the things you're speaking of, speak for myself, and then do a better job of promoting what's being done for that with the news media. And hopefully we can take and let folks know a little more. Raised here, I can tell you right now, it's really good from what it used to be.
Right. Once we installed in 2014 the microfiltration, it's a lot better. We're not violating our treatment process on the turbidity side, and of course the THMs. I know that I've emphasized, I've talked to the city of South Padre Island a few times, and the next step that I would like to recommend in the near future when funds are available is that we install a microfiltration right after the microfiltration, because that's all it takes, a microfiltration before the RO system, So an RO system, reverse osmosis is what makes the water better tasting. So in the near future, we can look into it, and I know I have a cost estimate right now that is being provided. I just haven't responded to the guy yet on some of the testing that we need to do before he gives me a total price. And it's just for our information, a cost estimate for that. And that's what I would like to see in the near future is better tasting water to the RO system.
And you're saying adding another
unit, right?
Another unit.
After the microfiltration system that we have there, all we need to do is add the RO system.
We have the land to do that?
Yes, we do.
That could be just in a little container. It doesn't take a
Yeah,
lot of
it's a
equipment.
small system that where the
Take
water
this
flows
kind of
in and
volume.
goes out the other side, to the.
Part of the reason I wanted us to talk about this is because I know that we're doing some things to minimize the odor and taste and all that. And that's what I would like to see us talk about when we engage the public. I know that we're not regulated to handle some of these things, that there's no TCEQ compliance issues with them, so therefore they don't force us to do much about that. And that's good and well, but those being the main issues with water, I think we do need to engage and say what we are doing, not what we're not required to do.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons, that's one of the things I would like to change, is the message that we're getting out. And basically what it's doing is we're just trying to add value to our commodity. Whether it's through every quarter we send them a little leaflet, letting them know that, we're here. I sent you some information in regards to, there's so many ideas out there about what we can do to be more proactive about our commodity.
Right.
And I truly feel that we do carry a certain amount of responsibility to add value to our water. As a board, as an entity, all of us do. It's a very necessary commodity, and I kind of feel a little bad because when people tell me it's so expensive, I think to myself, no, it's not expensive for what we're getting. And there's also that consideration that people, I didn't know, I never thought about it, and when I went and visited our source, I think to myself, God, we're at the end of the road here. No wonder it's hard.
Right.
And people don't know that and understand that. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we get those messages out and the people understand that we are trying to be proactive, and these are the things that we're doing. And that's really what I'd like to accomplish with all this, because I know we're doing some of those things. So we just need to work on the messaging so that people do know that we're trying to do something good in spite of the fact that we're not required to do it.
Right.
The best advertisement we're going to have is the finished product.
Yeah.
And so what staff is saying that they're looking into now would really benefit. And I think it's just a closer management of staff. If you talk about their RO, but that needs to be done before the chlorination, am I correct?
That's correct.
You can't use RO membranes with chlorination, so that's before, but then you chlorinate it. So it takes expert management by staff that they really monitor that closely to where we're not over chlorinating, because that will turn people off the quickest. So it's proper management, efficient
Yeah, and
management.
there are, I even saw some videos online from, for instance, a place out of California. They actually show you a day in the life of Noe. And it's really cool because it shows him doing his job, what he's doing to maintain that water clean, to monitor it, and it's really, we just need to change the messaging and just make sure that we're promoting the things that we're doing that are positive, for the community. And that way, at least, we've done everything we can to bring value to our product. And because ultimately, it's very inexpensive. That's the least expensive thing we pay for, and it's a necessity.
I'll wrap it up here if there's nothing else. You have a good board that's made up of business people, and we all sell a product, so we're here to provide and support that. So we understand the value of selling a product. And so, bring it on.
Good deal. Yes, thank you.
Any other comments? No action, just discussion. Number 10, consider and discuss for possible approval of water tower lease agreement with Verizon Wireless for the antenna at Andy Bowie.
Okay.
Mr. Galvan?
Yes, I did make some phone calls and emails to the representative that is representing Verizon Wireless. And Verizon Wireless is sending the message that 2% is the highest that they'll go. So I wanted to bring it back to the board as soon as, the next meeting, which is today, and let the board know that either recommend to go with 2% or just cut it off. We're spending some time on it, and we're at the point where, I talked to Mr. Avalos on some of this because he had questions on it, and it's up to the board. If we cut them off, they might come back and say, hold on.
Where they agreed, as I recall, there was other contingencies or changes in the agreement that we discussed to finance, so there was no opposition.
No opposition on the
only thing that
changes.
they're complaining about is the 2% to 1%. Did you point out to them that 1% on the contract equals $180 a year?
What do you mean 2% to 1%?
They want to pay
1%.
2%. We have, the only thing that we have as a comparable, we have an agreement with AT&T for the same thing with a 3% increase. So the difference that we're stalemated at 1%, which equals $180 a year that we're wanting from Verizon.
I need to figure
And they
it
say
out.
no to $100 a year. I say no to the contract.
I second that.
Okay.
I think I would like for you to say that we're basing our,
Let's cut it off
well, no, we're basing our decision on the fact that we already have an existing agreement with AT&T, and it's a long-standing one.
Right.
That has a 3% increase built into a long-standing agreement. And we can't go in there and give somebody else a less of an amount based on that. And the fact of, check my math, it's an $18,000 agreement. It's an $18,000, it's an $18,000 annual, 1% is $180. Spare me.
I'll check it out.
So that's what I'd
Not a
like
whole
for you to
lot.
convey to them.
Okay.
But
I will.
I think we've spent tremendous amount of time. We paid a lot more on that to legal to review this. I've spent a lot more time on that.
Yourself, yes.
And so I'll walk. I'll recommend to the district that we not accept. So if it's okay with the board, we'll
I
direct
think you have a
Mr.
motion and a
Galvin.
second.
Well, this do it in the form of a motion, and that would be direct. I would like to direct Mr. Galvin to convey this message to the Verizon folks, and with the caveat, if they're not agreeable with that, we're done.
Well, they're not. I mean, it's pretty obvious, yeah. It's
Well,
pretty
have they
obvious.
even looked at it from that perspective, $180?
Right, right. I'll pass the message to them and see what they,
I think they have mathematicians that can figure that out, but actually, I just wanted to bring
Maybe
up
not.
one point before we close it, is that the template that we have with AT&T, whether it's correct or not, or, we need to make sure that we do have a template, because we don't know, it's Verizon today, it might be somebody else tomorrow, or it could be AT&T, for all we know, that comes back and says, we want it.
Right.
The thing is that we need to make sure that we have some guidelines. How much square footage do you need? Are you need it on top, you need it on bottom? We need to have a little bit more control or some guidelines in place when we make these agreements, other than just a flat, here's your money. That's one part of it, and that's okay.
Well, that was in the agreement. That was in the agreement. We had the conversation last meeting
I thought there was a
to
question on how
identify-
much square footage they were gonna take up.
It identified it on the ground space, but it wasn't identified on the tower, and so that's where we took and asked them to go back to specifically define the area on the tower. We do have a template, and we're basing our decision on the template that we have with AT&T. Now, they've not provided us with anything else that's an industry standard, if you will, to think that, 2% is warranted. It's just, we don't want to pay 3%. That's all we got from them. So I have a motion and a second to direct Mr. Galvan to respond as we discussed tonight.
yes, sir.
Is that okay with you, Daisy, as far as following that? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your effort on that. Consider and approve abandonment of an easement on Lot 1A between West Amberjack and West Whiting on Laguna Boulevard, South Padre Island. Mr. Gomez.
Yes, sir. Skipjack Properties LLC is requesting that we abandon a 10-foot easement between West Wing Street and West Amberjack on Laguna Boulevard. This has been replatted, as you can see on the a copy of the plat that was submitted. It is now one lot, which is one lot A, which consists of 3.5 acres. The easement is in the middle of the lot. At this point, or at this time, we don't know what their plans are. The meters and the water line has been removed. They did pay to move the meters back to the Laguna Boulevard, and whenever they need water, we will be glad to accommodate them. But at this point, they're asking that we abandon that meter. You'll see on the, you'll see on the color copy, as the lot existed back then, there were several buildings in there, and as of now, there is nothing.
Do you know if this is a final replat?
No, sir, I don't. As far as I know, this is the only plat that they've given us.
That we don't know if it's a final replat, to where what they're showing us, that
Right.
this is actually what the city has approved.
That's correct. We don't have any plans, or we don't know of their plans, what they're going to do, or,
Well, got some information.
Yeah. What I do know, I'm talking with the developers out there, with Hunts Oil Dallas, with Paul Curtin and Lorenzo Galvan. They plan on making a park in the area. They're not gonna ever, as far as they know, they're not ever gonna replot it, make lots or anything like that. There's gonna be a family.
But you don't know if the city of South Padre Island has approved this replat.
What they told me, South Padre Island has nothing to do with the easements. It reverted back to the county, is what the discussion that we had with them.
Well, they're representing that is all one lot now. My question is this a final replat approved by the city of South Padre Island?
My understanding, yes,
We don't know for sure.
for sure, no.
It just
So we can get that
represented-
information tomorrow.
It's just represented here.
That is what is submitted at the county though.
Right, but there's other lines drawn in here for other easements, et cetera, so,
All of the utilities have been pulled back as well. Spectrum, AT&T, anything that was out there has also been pulled back. AEP has pulled back.
but they don't have any plans to develop it. What do they care if the easement's there?
Well, they're gonna do something, but they just wanna have the whole
But then-
property cleared from any utilities. So like that, if they wanna do whatever, just clear it.
I'm not ready to, individually speak for myself, I'm not ready to approve this, not knowing for sure if this is an approved replat by the city of South Padre Island. And I would like to know that is how it's in the district's best interest to abandon this.
It appears to be a final replay.
But this is just half and halves drawing, it does it, I can't read the small print.
It's
Yeah,
signed by
this-
the Planning and Zoning Commission chair. It's a final.
Though I got a couple of comments.
Oh, yeah, there is a signature block on South Side Island here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I talked to Mr. Galvan about this earlier, and I was wondering what are we losing, what are we gaining, what's going to happen with this? We don't really have any ownership of that. If they ever want us to do anything there for them, they're going to have to give us a different easement at some point if they ever want that. So I don't have a problem with giving it to them. It's not ours to begin with, and it's simply an access.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move we give it to them.
Well, not give it to them, to abandon the,
Yeah.
let's keep the motion direct for Lacy to follow what we're here. So it's considered to abandon the easement on lot 1A. We need to have a legal description attached to this if you want to reference it here somehow. And there's got to be more other than one lot between those two places.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, it's one lot A, it's shown here as one lot 1A, 3 point something or other acres, and then square feet. There's got to be some legal definition.
Mr.
Wells,
It looks,
Something I can't read.
yeah,
I
you see the top-
I did ask for that, and the only legal description they gave us is the letter that's attached from Lorenzo Galvan Jr.
If I may say something here, is that if you can
Zoom in.
zero it in, yeah, to the top, where it
Yeah,
has
down
been
the bottom,
approved
isn't
on January the 2017, that it is a final, the one lot. It's
Okay,
already
now-
existing as one lot. It's
Okay,
just the
So it's
replat will be.
Skipjack Bayfront subdivision, if you go down to the bottom right,
Right. Bottom right. Takeda.
there's your description.
There, yeah. And it looks like it's,
And
At
there's
that
your
time-
recording and everything, so that's got to be referenced in there.
The way this would work, this replat has been approved.
yes,
Now they want to go further and abandon this particular easement.
correct.
The easement will have to be, the verbiage written up in a legal document for signatures after we approve it or not. I mean, so the abandonment of the easement does not have to be part of this replat. It is not part of the replat.
No, but we have to identify where the,
Well, that's what I'm saying. When their attorney drafts the abandonment of the easement, they will, by meets and bounds, describe this easement.
yeah, and they're going to have to take and record it
Correct.
If it's approved.
if it's approved.
If it's approved. But they're not going to write it up until we say, we're going to do it or not.
Okay, so the only thing I was making a point of, and I thank you for clarification, is that if the motion, whatever your motion is, if you want to do it, it's got to reference the legal description.
And if you see the middle of the page where it says volume 14, page 68,
Right.
it's an all of lot 1, block 51 and 52. That's all it is, lot one.
So then it would have to be contingent.
When it was,
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
The motion, Carl?
To approve the,
Abandonment of easement of lot A, 1A, between Amberjack Street and West Whiting.
Could I make a comment? Maybe the proper motion would be to abandon it, subject to receiving proper documentation on the meets and bounds and attorney's review.
And that will come back to us?
Yeah.
and you'd have,
Okay.
yeah, you'd have to have something there that the district can sign off to allow.
Exactly,
for
that's
the
what would be
deed recording.
described in this meets and bounds description attached to the abandonment.
it'll be back, it'll be coming back to us, and we'll re-sign again without the easement once it's approved.
Well, then we take final approval, we have to come back to us as another action item, if we
No.
go forward anywhere tonight.
No, not necessarily, as long as,
Who's gonna
we
sign off on
receive
it
copies
then?
of it. We can get copies and.
Who's gonna sign off on it?
I will. That's my authorization right there to sign and keep copies of it when,
So are you okay with that amendment?
Yes, thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification.
Yeah, because Carlos is gonna get back a document, and he's gonna look at the meets and bounds, and someone has to determine that we're talking about the same amount of
Correct.
area.
Okay.
If it's not, he's not gonna sign it.
Can I ask Daisy if she has the motion made so far? We still haven't got a second, so.
Well, I have, where you amended the motion to read subject to proper.
But I didn't hear him second with the,
Oh,
with the
okay, yeah,
amendment.
you just need him to second amendment.
If he, we still don't have a second.
No.
I'll second it.
Okay.
And so now you're comfortable with all of our, okay. I have a motion to approve with the conditions stated and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote no. Motion carries. Number 12, consider approve to reject the existing contract of sodium chloride with International Dioxide Inc. and approve the second lowest bidder, Evoqua Water Technologies LLC, bid number CH-17-808-01/08. Who's going to tell us about that? Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Yes, vendor approved on previous meeting, increased the price due to the number of deliveries he needs to do based on the volume of the orders we placed. With this increase, he's no longer the best option. So we want to reject the existing contract and give it to the second lower bidder, Evoqua. We don't have the problem we have with this volume.
Well, essentially, he's backing out of his bid. He's changing the bid. He's backing out of the bid, what he bid to us. He's not going to comply with the bid submitted.
right,
Would that be correct?
that is correct.
So, there's just no justification. The low bidder backed out. So now we go into consideration of, awarding it to whomever with staff recommendation. So your recommendation is to, to reject the lowest bidder and approve the second lowest bidder, which is about the same money
Pretty close.
from our
Not
original.
much more, yes.
Am I correct on that, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Well, the original low bidder was Evoqua. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I make a motion to go with the second lowest.
Well, I'll second that.
I have a motion to take staff recommendation in a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Number 13, consider and approve 2-year contract for asphalt and paving repairs with G&T Paving. Bid number April 17, 20-0803/04.
With this 1 year extension, period extension was being already approved, but the vendor is asking for 2 years instead of 1. So we recommend go with that 2 years.
By what justification?
Based on the bids we get, the increase was really high, I think 90%. That's why we reject the bids and go with the 1 year extension. That's,
You mean to do it year after year would have cost more money from
No.
the same vendor?
Well, if you remember, when we were looking at the bids originally, they were all high.
Okay.
Except if we were to give G&T a 1 year extension, we got a decent price.
Okay.
So now they're just asking, well, let's make it 2 years and we'll keep you that low price for 2 years.
Yeah, but where's the benefit to the district for doing that?
Well, because don't you remember
It's
what
a
the
fixed
other
cost.
options from the other
Yes.
companies
Well,
were?
that was,
This is what happened is that in August, I brought the board the 1 year extension agreement, and coming out of the board mentioned, no, let's do.
Bid it out.
Bid it out for 3 years. That's where the company went up on the prices.
well, we didn't have we only had 2 bidders, as I recall.
Actually, just one, just them.
No, we had somebody else, they were
Well,
real
we
high.
had several bidders that were
Real
receiving
high.
the information, but they were too far, they didn't want to agree to helping the district in turning in the bid. So they said, no, we're too far from here, we're not going to bid it, we're in Dallas. Some were the Upper Valley, you know, it wasn't a whole lot of projects going on for, I believe it was like between 45 and 48,000 a year. So 2 smaller projects for them to come over and deal with the district.
As I recall, also before we had a purchasing agent, somebody to really go out there and market this out there. And my recall of this particular bid is it's kind of it's an open-end bid because they're bidding on something they don't know what they're going to have to perform. It's just
Okay.
as needed by the district.
Right.
If the district rips up something and there has to be some repair, the district goes in and does a temporary repair with Caliche or whatever.
Right.
And then this paving company comes in and makes the permanent repair.
Right.
So they don't know what they're bidding on, it's kind of an open-ended. They do it by the volume of material, et cetera.
Right.
So, and we said, okay, let's just go ahead and do that. But I remember having, we'll go ahead and extend it for a year, because that was all right. But I recall having a conversation that, you know, it would be the district's best interest and the vendor's best interest to have a general understanding that these patch jobs, I'll call them, would be kind of accumulated for a month or 6 weeks or 2, so that they don't have to plan on mobilizing for multiple jobs. So it's just their mobilizing fee, so it'd be more attractive to the vendor to be able to do that. So I don't know if you've had that conversation with them.
Well,
to-
that's what we
to-
normally
to
do is wait
amend-
for.
To amend the agreement, to make this a little more
Well,
understanding where any vendor can wrap his arms around it. Instead of just saying, okay, you're going to come when we call you. There needs to be a general agreement that we won't call you other than once a month, and I'm just using a loose time frame, unless it's specified as an emergency, and then you have something assigned to that, to where they can actually put a dollar amount on there to work on. So we said, okay, 1 year, and then now they come back and said, well, they give us 2 years.
Well, you allude to the mobilization costs, which are substantial.
Yes.
Can be.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's what we do, wait till we have like 3 or 4 patches, and then we call them in.
And G&T currently, I know, has worked and will probably continue working in Laguna Vista and on the island. So they're somewhat local.
Right.
So just the fact that they've got equipment in the area, I think we can benefit from this relationship rather than bringing someone out of the area.
I don't
Well, and
propose that
and
at
that's
all.
the difficulty, that there's not enough money in it to bring
Yeah, it's a
other
small-
people in, that's the problem.
No, I understand that, but the question I would have is there any other local vendors that with this agreement, I think when we bid it out last time, said bid it out, that's what I was hoping for. And then we went into an annual agreement and thought maybe this could be, the agreement could be refined to where it's more clear to the vendor that, a more defined agreement, if you will.
I did ask Mr. Galvan about another vendor that we had used over on the island before, but similar problems. He said that's not going to work. So there are other people out there, and some of them are just not very good. And so there's the bigger ones, of course, don't want the job. So you're kind of in a little quandary there.
Mr. Wills, just to answer the comment, there's others out there, but for them to come out here, it's not cost effective for them. That's how they see it.
Right.
And like Mr. Houston is saying, G&T doing a lot of work on the island, and in Laguna Vista for the next year or two, they feel comfortable that they're always going to have equipment, so they're coming over. Mobilization fee is somewhat reduced, but they will charge for each mobilization, for each area. And that's going to be through all those companies.
I can see that, and I don't have a true objection to any of this, speaking for myself. I'm just hoping that with our my expectations of the new purchase agent, that he's more involved with all of these things. And we're not relying on just SOP, and go ahead and work through these things to where it can be more beneficial to all parties.
More bidders.
Well, I think we were okay with the one-year extension. And we gave the direction to the staff to proceed. I'm going to make the motion to go ahead with a 2-year extension. It's a small amount. They do good work. I saw what we were looking at on the other bids from the other companies. If we were to lose GT, we had to go out and renegotiate, and I don't.
Doesn't look too promising.
Yeah.
I can agree with all that, but at the same time, I don't want to take, my objection is that we take and do a better job of searching other vendors that could do as good a better job.
And I can respond to that. I believe that as long as we have a purchasing agent, we will be looking at that. And I believe after if it's approved, after 2 years, we can get that information that you mentioned, is that we'll compact several jobs before we call them up and have more vendors giving us a proposal for that, and getting involved with the bids,
I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen.
I made a motion
I didn't hear it.
to extend it to 2 years.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Conversation is good. Item number 14, consider and approve Ambiotech Environmental Consultants to perform environmental services for groundwater monitoring at the Port Isabel monofield. Mr. Ortiz.
Yeah, this was kind of a surprise that came in. Basically, we have to submit our annual sludge report on September 30th for the year. This is our first year where our monofield's been active. And we basically got a response from TCQ where the groundwater monitoring has some deficiencies on there. And that was a report originally done by PSI. But the issue with trying to resolve that work with them is the fact that they don't have a geoscientist who's local. The local person is more of a middleman for someone who's really intended to address this kind of environmental work. So just to keep somebody who's local and qualified, I was recommending that this proposal from Ambiotech for them to come on board to complete the deficiencies and groundwater monitoring requirements here at the monofield.
I have several comments. I'll let y'all.
Is this like a redo of something we've already done before?
It would be just more handling what are the deficiencies. It's correct. It's addressing comments for.
What we're having to do is spend money to fix somebody else's mistakes. All of this report here is negative of PSI, who we hired to do this, screwed it up. It's a mess.
Do we have any
And so why are we paying somebody else to fix their mess?
And I mean, that's fine. I mean, I can keep working with PSI to close out these comments. It's just, why were the comments generated in the first place?
I'm sorry, I'll let Alex finish.
No, and that's what I was trying to figure out, but Do we have any recourse with PSI?
Oh, no, well, PSI, they're willing to address these comments, that they're not,
Okay.
they haven't walked away. I mean, I can pick up the phone and keep working with them, so
Okay.
that's.
So we don't need to do this, they're still working on it?
Correct.
Okay, and do you feel confident they're going to take care of it?
Well, they could, yeah, I can't say no at this point.
Okay.
I feel confident we can direct our district engineer to ensure they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's my objection is, you know, and I see the logic, but at the same time, we've paid for this service, and there's just sloppiness in this report that I've read. And it's embarrassing, even from typos in the industry. And so, first, and I would want that corrected pursuant to the report. And it shouldn't have been a surprise that this was due September 30th, and the last report commenced on the 27th of September,
Oh, well.
when it was due on the 30th. So that's a big no-no. So I have concerns, one, of paying somebody else to do somebody else's sloppy work. I would like them to fix that and get our buck's worth. And then we have the discussion on proposals of professional services to give us the proper professional services in the future. I am not sold on Ambutech. I would like to look at others and get a proposal from others. But part of the proposal that Ambutech has given us in this amount is taking care of cleaning up PSI's mess. And then we're going in for another year of doing the work properly. That may be the right thing, but I certainly don't approve of paying again for something we've already paid for.
I agree.
I never saw a PSI report.
It's in the,
We're critical of it, but I mean,
I'm going by
It wasn't included
TECQ's
in the
letter. I'm going by TECQ's letter referring to the report that was generated by PSI. And then, I'm sorry I dove into this late this afternoon, but then I got some of the reports requested from Mr. Galvano and Mr. Ortiz on the work that they did. But, you know, again, TECQ just took the quarterly reports that was generated, provided to the district, and the district forwarded it to them.
Yeah, we're required to
And-
submit all this annually, so they just barely did it.
Right, but they hadn't even, common sense, you know, when the fiscal year ends, September 30, all these half reports would be in, and they didn't start the fourth report until September 27th. And they got there to TECQ on the 12th of October, and they weren't happy in what I read in this letter. So my recommendation is that we have PSI correct the deficiencies in the TECQ's letter, and then we take and consider who we want to take and award the services to for the next year.
you know, let me make an observation, and you may concur with me after I say this. I've dealt with some agencies in Austin, and the bureaucrats in Austin, they have to justify their jobs a lot of times by being critical of what you submit. Because when they criticize, then their job's a little bit more secure. I would not be surprised if this wasn't more or less standard procedures. They get any type of report from any engineering firm, they're going to nitpick it to death, send it back to the original engineering firm, and they go back and forth. It's sort of like a dance. I think it's a dance. Everybody gets paid to do the dance. So, I mean, I've had some dealings with PSI. They've always been, I've never had any problems with them, but I don't look at it as critically as a TCEQ.
Right.
But I think PSI should have the opportunity to address all these.
And they've already agreed to address the comments, so there's no issue there.
If they don't address them, then I think, as Mr. Wells said, but
We didn't,
I don't disagree with all that, but there's certain things in here that just are not excusable, and that's just, they didn't even supply the second quarter.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really, it's not, you can't entirely blame that on them, we need to be calling it in. It's one of those things to where it's our first year, we're just, you know, getting used to implementing a new permit we haven't used before. You know, but I wouldn't really throw them under the bus over missing the quarter, that's kind of an operator, you know, that district has partial responsibility for calling that in.
A lot of these are not huge discrepancies, but I would like PSI to correct them.
Okay.
And then, given what you said and what Mr. Houston said, I agree. Individually, I would take and entertain a proposal from PSI and others for professional services for next year, after we clean up this year.
need a motion.
Need a motion?
I'll move we deny the item 14.
Let's see, can we move forward with that to consider, approve, and be, okay, so we're going to deny 14. Your motion is to deny 14, but along with the discussion here tonight, staff will move accordingly.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you, it's unanimous. Consider and review expenditures for October 16th through 30th, 2017. Someone?
Yes. Do you have any questions for the current expenditures?
I had one question on page 5 of 9. Third item from the bottom, made to Rush Truck Center, Unit 33. Is that, my question is that the vacuum truck? One of them?
Yes, sir.
And so were you able to get work done on it and get something improved on it?
It is currently operating. They are using it. As far as I know, I haven't been told anything other than that. It is repairable at this point.
I
It is
hadn't
repaired
heard
rather.
that. I hadn't
Yeah.
heard that, so when I saw this expenditure, that's what I was hoping to hear. Any other comments?
I move that we accept as presented the expenditures.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You have it. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, might it not be prudent, considering we're absent 2 of our members, to forego the executive session tonight?
I would agree with that. I'd like to ask legal if we can just take and cancel this agenda item, or do we have to make a motion not to go in executive session?
Eduardo Ortiz, on behalf of legal, I think we could go ahead and cancel this agenda item.
Everybody agreeable to do that? Staff, are you comfortable, Mr. Galvano?
Yes.
That's what we'll do. I'll go to number 18. Sorry. A second. Thank you so much.
Not to go into motion?
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Skip number 17. Or do we have to take in? It would not be active, so we're in adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much for making my first